Vladimir Putin is unusual among modern world leaders due to his background. For Putin is a living relic from the bad old days, when East and West faced each other over an iron curtain, and a secret war was being waged in the shadows for information and power. And the preeminent organization on the communist side was the KGB, the Committee for State Security, and working away assiduously within its massive structure was Putin, who was climbing his own greasy pole up through the ranks, and in the process being molded into the man the West now has to contend with. Putin was born in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, in October 1952, to a family that had suffered much in World War II, as had most Soviet families. Putin's father had been a conscript in the Red Navy before the war, serving on submarines, then in a Special Forces battalion of the NKVD, a forerunner to the KGB, then in an infantry unit until badly wounded in action. Putin's maternal grandmother had been killed by the Germans, and his maternal uncles all died fighting on the Eastern Front. Interestingly, Putin did have one link to the political leadership: his grandfather, who was Stalin's personal cook. Interested in martial arts and espionage from a young age, Putin was also a voracious reader of Marxist political theory and learned German as a second language. He studied international trade law at Leningrad State University and joined the KGB straight after graduation, also joining the Communist Party. Putin was selected for KGB training due to a new program organized by its head, Yuri Andropov, the intention being to get them young and train them to be more critical KGB officers instead of just recruiting former army officers. Putin, with his degree in international trade law and schoolboy fascination with espionage, was an ideal choice. Putin was trained at the 401st KGB school in Leningrad, learning surveillance techniques, spycraft, and weapons proficiency. It has been observed that Putin's distinctive gait, where his right hand barely swings, the so-called gunslinger's gait, demonstrates his old KGB weapons training has never left him, his hand never straying far from where his pistol was once kept. Eventually transferred to the First Chief Directorate, the KGB's Foreign Espionage Department, Putin's job was following and generally spying on foreigners in Leningrad, particularly diplomats from the various foreign consulates. His work was good, and in 1984 he was selected for further training at the Yuri Andropov Red Banner Institute in Moscow. He received specialist training preparatory to going overseas as a field agent. In 1985, Putin was transferred to KGB headquarters in Dresden, East Germany. His cover was as a translator, as he was fluent in German. But from the little that can be ascertained at this period in his life, Putin appears to have been helping to coordinate the infamous Red Army faction, a German terrorist group whose members received Stasi, that is, East German secret police protection. The KGB had about 50 officers attached to the Stasi to help advise them on operations, and one of them was Putin. Also known as the Baader-Meinhof Gang, the Red Army faction committed a series of terrorist outrages in Western Europe between 1970 and 1998, including 248 bomb and arson attacks. Though the founders were caught and imprisoned in West Germany in 1972, their followers continued operations, aided and abetted by the Stasi and the KGB. Putin appears to have been heavily involved in assisting the group as a way to destabilize West Germany, particularly in the provision of weapons to the group from Soviet sources. It has also been alleged that Putin was the KGB handler for Rainer Sonntag, a neo-Nazi who founded the National Resistance Dresden, and it was seen as a link to the West German neo-Nazi and skinhead scene. The KGB would help to fund any organization that would destabilize the West, including neo-Nazi groups. Sonntag ended up being shot to death in Dresden in 1991. Putin also operated as a spy in West Germany. He would cross at the famous Checkpoint Charlie in Berlin, often using the cover name Mr. Adamov, an employee of TASS, the official Soviet news agency. Some sources suggest that Putin was actually expelled from West Germany after being suspected of espionage activities in the capital Bonn. Putin's other activities in East Germany included recruiting informers for the KGB, and in particular recruiting German wireless communications specialists who travelled often to Southeast Asia, but the extent of what he achieved is shrouded in secrecy to this day. Putin was twice decorated by East Germany for his intelligence work. In 1987 he received the Medal for Distinguished Service to the National People's Army of the GDR, Bronze class, and in 1988 the Medal of Merit, the National People's State Security of the GDR, Gold class. Putin, by now a lieutenant colonel in the KGB, played an important part during the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. As anti-communist demonstrations spread throughout East Germany, Putin managed to save the KGB files of the Dresden headquarters and the files of the Soviet Cultural Center. This material was shipped into Russia, while Putin and his subordinates burned anything they couldn't shift to prevent them from falling into Western hands. In 1989, Putin was decorated again with the Badge of Honor of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR for his service in the KGB. After this, Putin, who was a strong supporter of Mikhail Gorbachev, moved from the regular KGB to the active reserve in Leningrad in 1990, recruiting new men for the KGB from students at his old university, where he was also writing his doctoral thesis. The Soviet Union's days were now numbered. The 19th of August 1991, a coup d'etat was attempted in Moscow by hardliners trying to end President Gorbachev's progressive leadership program, and it would ultimately fail. Putin claimed he resigned from the KGB the next day, 20th of August, his loyalty to Gorbachev and the progressives. By this time, Putin was already acting as an advisor on international affairs to the mayor of Leningrad, his old friend, and followed this in 1991 by being appointed head of the Committee for External Relations. Putin was now well on the road to becoming a politician. It is a fact that many of the top men in Russia today are former KGB officers. Like Putin, they adapted to their country's changing fortunes and in many cases flourished in the new Russia, largely created by Putin. Some writers have even suggested that under Putin, the old warriors of the KGB have effectively taken over in Russia, and to some extent this appears to be true. This of course means that removing Putin from power will probably prove extremely difficult. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.